to the job thing. Whether this is your first time or your returning time, if you're coming back, you know what our format is. We have a different speaker each week that touches on some kind of topic that relates to jobs, whatever that job looks like for you. Tonight we have Tish Carlson, who I'm so excited for her to speak. Just want to give you a little bit of background on her. She is a wife of 15 years. She's a mother of twin girls and a little boy. I don't know their ages.
10 and 7.
Okay. She is also the creative director here at Calvary. She runs a photography business that she's been running for 10 years. And she's opened up her own retail space. She's had that for 2 years now. So she's got a lot going on in her life. And she's going to talk to us just about what that looks like, how she got there, how she keeps it running, and we look forward to listening to you, Tish.
Okay, so I'm Tish, and that is a lot of things. And I spent the last month trying to decide, like, you watch people like Lenya writing her notes, and then I was sitting going, I don't know what to write. And then I tried that version, and that wasn't working for me. And then I've been debating on how I was going to share my story, and that's what my husband said this morning. It's your story, and the way you communicate is through storytelling. And so don't write notes down, though I end up writing some just to maybe keep me on track, but that's probably not going to stick either. So I decided I'm just going to stay true to what I've been doing for the last 10 years of my life, which is storytelling. And that started through my camera. I, 10 years ago, decided that after having twins, to start a business. Because that makes sense, right? That makes sense. But just a quick, I just want to make sure you guys know I'm a person. So yes, I'm a mother. I've also faced miscarriage. I deal with depression. I get really emotional.
You're real. Yes. Yes.
So though I can list, I start businesses and I have a lot of success stories, I just want you guys to know I'm a real person. And that has always been something that's part of me. So anyways, didn't know I was going to start crying, but there we go. There's me. Yeah, so I had twins after losing 5 prior. And then I've always been into the camera, but in kind of growing up, I grew up in a sports home, so sports was pushed and not creative. So I just kind of in the back of my head was intrigued, but that wasn't part of who I was growing up. So I decided, I looked at my husband and I was like, I want a camera. He's like, I'm not willing to drop money on a camera right now. So I decided to use a friend's camera, and I had no idea what I was doing. And I asked my husband one day, I was like, can you just, like, if you can explain how to, so he's like tech, builds computers, technologies like he was born to know and understand. And my brain still today is like, I have no idea what you're even talking about. And so I asked him, I was like, if you can think of the dumbest way to teach me how to use a camera, make it even dumber than that, and then explain that. And I couldn't do it. My brain was not registering. A good friend, a lot of you know Brent Wiley, he is part of my story of how I started photography. And he found a way to dumb down. And then from there I decided, because all of a sudden, just because I knew to move some dials and buttons, that I could now shoot. So, which was not true at all. I offered on Facebook, good old Facebook, that I was doing family photos. And that was putting myself way out there. But I thought if I did family photos and I messed up, I could at least do it again. And so I started doing it that way. I charged $50, and that was like gave me a lot of anxiety to ask someone to pay me $50. But we have to start somewhere. And so I started there. And my journey started from that point. It turned into people asking, will you shoot my wedding? And I said, no, do not ask me. Like, that's something I can't rewind and try again. That's like a forever crappy photos forever. And so I was getting begged by the same couple, and so I was like, okay, well, I'm just letting you know, I literally don't know what I'm doing. So if you want me to do it, but I'm just letting you know, you are literally going home with really terrible photos. And they're like, we're so excited. So even that, they're like, what do you charge? And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't charge. She's like, I have to pay you something, and I don't know, it's like $500, which was like, felt really wrong. By the next year, I realized I had a business. I didn't go into photography thinking I'm going to start a business. I went into photography because I loved people and I loved storytelling, and I just wanted to know how to create. By the next year, I booked 30 weddings. And by the next year, I booked another 30 weddings, and I'm in 10 years of the wedding industry. I've done anything from travel to out of the country to shooting for clothing companies, hundreds of weddings. But when I started, I promised myself one thing. I knew that the wedding industry, well, first there's a couple things, like I chose to use natural light, which was the first person in Albuquerque to shoot a wedding that way. So I had the honor of like leading it a different way here in our own city. But I also promised myself that if I were ever to continue in weddings just for the money, that I needed to fire myself. And so I was getting to a point halfway through where I wasn't loving what I was doing. And I was like, oh gosh, I'm at that crossroad, right? Maybe this is it. Maybe 5 years and I'm done. And I realized, but I stepped back and I was like, well, I don't think I want to stop, but more like, I don't like the way I'm shooting a wedding. I don't like the way I'm telling someone's story. And I realized I had the freedom to throw the checklist out the window and photograph what I saw. And so I started photographing weddings through what I see it, the lens I have, the lens that Jesus gave me. And so that changed my whole life. I no longer had the shot list. You know, shot lists are like, for those who don't realize, there was a shot list like, okay, photograph the wedding, okay, or photograph this dress, photograph the shoes, and I was like, there's only so many dress shots, so it's like, oh my gosh, what is this doing for anyone? Who wants a dress shot? And so I switched it and I went my whole other direction. So I say that because I'm like, we have freedom to do it in whatever version we've been created to do it. And so if a wedding photographer wants to do the shot list because that's how they feel comfortable, then they do the shot list. But for me, if I wanted to stay in weddings and still continue to photograph weddings, to find joy in it, I have to shoot it in the way that makes sense for me. Just like my husband saying, you need to talk the way you were created to talk. And so I feel really just honored to even be standing here telling my story. Anyway, so there we are. So wedding photography. And then I'm really into interior design. And I decided to start putting my love for interior design, just photos on Instagram. And that's turned into, my husband reminded me, he's like, that's an extension of your love for hosting. And so you want your home, you've created our home to be a place that's inspirational and welcoming. And if you want to take a nap on my couch, you're more than welcome to, but at the same time, you can look around and feel inspired. And so just another extension of something I loved. And so from there, this whole influencer Instagram world has turned into the privilege of getting being entrusted with products to photograph in my home and make money through doing that. And so from there, my home is being, like this year, is being featured in 2 books in print. And so I feel really honored that people from literally Europe came and flew in and photographed my home. And so that's going to be, but that was just me sharing who I am and what I love. And that is just naturally turned into a business. So I know that businesses could start and you have a plan, and I don't know, people make lists and plans and you accomplish those, and mine just hasn't been that. Like, there's been things like I'm really terrible at money and bookkeeping, and I know that about myself, so that's a weakness for me. So I hire someone to do that. And Allie, who has been on my side doing my books for the last maybe 8 years now, she knows my weakness. She has a lot of grace with me when I'm not sending her any receipts or anything. She just has figured it out. But she sends all my contracts explaining, she's found a way to explain, like, Tish is the creative and she needs the freedom just to be creative with you. So I am taking care of your contracts. So my business doesn't run just because of me. My business runs because I'm willing to be vulnerable and, like, here's my weakness and I need you because this is what you love. And so I guess there's freedom in finding what your weaknesses are, and if you need someone to help carry that, it's okay to ask for help. So my house turned into a whole influencer paid opportunity in the last few years. And so then I decided that I wanted to extend my love of interior design and reaching more people and bringing community together. So I decided to open a shop 2 years ago because I don't already have enough on my plate. And that has been so fun. That business is still growing. Opening a retail, I refuse to work in retail. I know nothing about retail. All I know is I know how to create spaces that are beautiful, and I know products I love, and I want those products to be in other people's homes. So I thought we could put that in a building and let's do that. And so that's turned into not just like shopping experience, but we host workshops and we let other people know about other artists and creatives, and we have big events like pop-up events that bring communities out. And so the shop isn't just an extension of something I love, but it's just reaching more of the community. And to me, that's a big deal, and I feel really honored that I just have that opportunity in Albuquerque, especially our tiny little city who feels like they're always behind in all the cool things that are happening. So it's fun to bring community together. And so, but that's a learning experience. I'm not taking a cut still. I pay our employees, and we're taking care of our girls. I call them my girls. My other extension of my young 20-year-old girls who are learning to, and when I hired them, I asked them, I was like, if you want to be part of No Longer Wander, you have to understand that this is I want you to own it like I own it. So I'm raising them up. They have like major responsibilities that if they don't do their job, the shop doesn't run. So I feel really honored to take these young girls under, and they are learning. They're literally 17 and 21, and they're learning how to run a full-blown business. And I'm excited to see where that takes them in the future. I know I won't have them forever, but for right now, though I'm not taking a cut, there's still enough reward. And I've heard it takes like 5 years to a retail space. You make money, and my dad thinks I'm crazy for having it because I'm not making money and whatever. But for me, I know I'm called to do that, and I know it's a sacrifice, but it's living on its own. So it's not like, we're in debt and whatever. But so I run a photography business. I have this influencer thing. I have the shop. I am not a perfect business owner. My list is always long, and Allie's always, Tish, I really need, like, where are you spending the money? Like, I just say that because I'm like, I'm literally not perfect, but I'm trying. And I think that I realized I've been really navigating through, like, when I was asked to speak, I was like, I don't know, I just started businesses. I have no idea how this came about. And my husband is so gracious around me, like, it's all just been an extension. So I guess I'm like, what do you love? And then pursue that really well. And then put yourself out there and also be willing to take risks with your money. Find what your weaknesses are, and if those are weaknesses that you can ask someone to come alongside you, ask them. Because there's a lot of freedom for me to just be my messy. If you know the Enneagram, 4s are really just like to have no idea what's ever happening and are super emotional. And but I'm learning to be confident in who I am and being okay with, like, yeah, I really just don't do a really good job over here, but you do, and I will pay you to do this. And Allie gives me the freedom to just do all the creativity. And so, but again, it's a lot. And then in the last 2 years, my husband's gone through a lot of not walking for 2018. He was a senior manager at Apple, which is a big deal. He was moving up quickly. Paycheck was good. We were actually traveling around the world doing wedding photography. We were gone several times a month. And our life was just really sweet and good. And I liked being home with my kids and running our photography business. My husband loved his job, and then he stopped walking. So luckily for that first year, Apple took care of us. I kept sending a paycheck, but I slowly had to take more and more on, which took my focus away from the thing I loved. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. And so that meant less time on the thing I was focused on and loved to carry my husband and my kids. And then Nathan Heitzig decided to come out of nowhere and offer me a position as creative director of Calvary, which was like, I looked at him and was like, I'm super honored. I mean, that is a major opportunity, but I was like, I don't need that. We're fine. I have 2 businesses. Why do I need a full-time job? But I couldn't shake it. I kept telling Jesus, I'm like, this does not make sense. I have businesses. I'm content. I don't need a job. I don't like a job. I don't know, a 9-to-5 job. And I couldn't shake it. So I told Nate yes. And then I started a year ago. And then my husband ended up quitting Apple because he couldn't walk and stand any longer. And he's still in pain. He's walking, not normal, but he's up. And he's helping get my business with Matt and Tish. He photographs with me, but he's doing a lot of back-end stuff to kind of get back to getting that built back up, which is great, because the realization is seasons happen and your business can flux, and then it could feel like it's going away, and then you have to do a lot of extra work, And right now I've had, like, in the next month I have like a lot of free work I've scheduled for myself. And it's all work that I'm directing and going to photograph. But that's because I know that in order for me to re-attract the business I want, I have to now go back to the humble beginnings of free work. And I've always done free work, but it's easy to do free work when you see your bank account just flowing. And right now I'm in a season where I'm like super thankful to be at Calvary. And I'm still learning a lot in that. And I'm learning things that I know are going to apply to my personal businesses. That is, this job, being creative director, is affecting me in ways I never knew would. I just never knew would be applied to anything else. And then, but the willingness to do free work, hard free work, but free work in the sense of work that you're excited about. So though I have like free work, like I'm putting myself out there and I'm spending the hours, it's everything I'm excited about, and I know that all that work is going to attract the work I want.
That's good.
And so, for specifically photography, this is what I know is like, people are like, well, how do you always get the weddings you want? How are you only attracting what you want? And I'm like, I only show what I want. So I'm sure that could apply in whatever thought process or businesses. Every business grow, if you want to hone in and be the business you want, you have to attract what you want. And so, same with the shop. It's not for everyone. Not everyone's going to get it. But I'm okay with that because I want to enjoy what I do, and I want to attract a certain person and inspire people that are like, I've never experienced such a thing. But I mean, it is an honor when people from Brooklyn move to Albuquerque and they walk in like, a piece of Brooklyn, and I'm like, yes, I'm doing it's silly things, but it's rewarding to me. So I don't know if all this makes sense, and I don't really know how much time we have. Okay, but I think questions, could we ask questions? I like the interaction more than just speaking the next 10 more minutes. Yes?
What is the name of your shop?
No Longer Wonder. It's up on Comanche and Morris. It's just a little shop next to Bristol Donuts, and a bunch of us are taking an old strip mall and revitalizing it in a neighborhood. Anything? Yes?
How did you get over your fears?
Fears? Oh, I have fears.
Deal with rejection.
Yeah. Rejection comes in all kinds of forms. Rejection comes from getting excited about an email with an ideal bride in Hawaii and blah, 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 and it's amazing, and then for some reason she just chooses someone else. And that sometimes I'm having to learn, sometimes it's not me. Has nothing to do with me. And I've learned I would rather her have the photographer she would want. And if that's not me, that's not best. I wasn't meant for her. Now, that journey of getting to even say